it's just sort of like a series of escalating, like bizarre threats about where you're going to pee or how you're going to pee. Welcome in to all the members present and worldwide. I hereby call this meeting of the PSBC to order. Yes, welcome to the Primal Systems Blue Chip Club, a mission-critical project for masculine sovereignty. I'm your chairman of the board, Cash Donington. Gentlemen, the data are clear. The modern landscape is a zero-sum game, and most of you are losing. In the marketplace of ideas saturated with low-value noise and feminine imperatives, there's only one sanctuary for the man who's decided to maximize his ROI and go his own way. That's right. It's here at the PSBC. We achieve gains, biological, financial, spiritual, free from the distractions of the matrix. If you're looking for a safe space, find a library. But if you're looking for the blueprint to dominance, well, brother, you're in the right bunker. So focus up, check your frame, and let's get into the ledger. Joining me on today's transmission is our esteemed board of directors. Let's welcome them in. Starting with Dr. BD, PhD. Welcome, Doctor.
I feel like that the sort of room temperature has changed a bit since you started claiming to go to the gym all the time. And it sounds like you've been listening to some new podcasts that I'm not aware of.
Welcome, Doctor. Yeah, it's great to have you. Thank you. Welcome in C-Dub. C-Dub, welcome.
C-Dub, checking in.
Good to have you, C-Dub. And of course, Jay Lynn. Welcome to the club, Jay Lynn.
Always a pleasure.
So, gentlemen, in today's meeting, we're conducting an in-depth audit of Manosphere icon Roosh V, including his pivot towards Orthodox Christianity in his memoir, American Pilgrim. Producers have also asked me to share that the PSBC meetings will be transmitted to members on a fortnightly basis going forward. We had a bit of a backlog of meetings that we were releasing weekly. That backlog is now cleared. We'll be shifting our cadence accordingly. Before we get into today's new business, I want to remind everyone that the Blue Chip Club shop is open 24/7 for guys who are genuine about leveling up. One of the new opportunities that me and the board are thrilled about is the Midas Wealth System. The secrets of this wealth creation system were locked away for centuries by shadowy global cabals, but now the PSBC is making it available to our members. Look, let's be honest. Right now, you're probably listening to me in your piece of shit 20-year-old beige Toyota, headed to a job you hate, you feel stuck. Meanwhile, I'm doing business from a high-rise condo on a lush tropical island.
What the fuck?
But listen, the only difference between you and me is I'm not afraid to take chances. So take a chance on the Midas Wealth System. The full package is available for an investment of only $37. Head over to wealth.bluechipclub.shop. Again, that's wealth.bluechipclub.shop. This round will be closing soon, so be sure to secure this vital asset. Before we cover the waterfront on all things Roosh V, of course, we first need to conduct the perimeter scan. The perimeter scan is, of course, our rapid briefing of this week's essential knowledge.
What the hell was that?
What's going on here? First off, was that personal? What do you have against 20-year-old beige Toyotas?
Nothing against beige Toyotas. I'm just saying, if you want to be a winner, if you're looking to optimize, you really want to level up, you don't drive a beige Toyota.
And then second, what's the ambiguous financial scam you're pushing?
Well, as a member of the board, you're well aware of the Midas Wealth System. If you head over to wealth.bluechipclub.shop, this actually comes from the secrets of the Egyptians. There was a shadowy global cabal that locked up the secrets of wealth creation for centuries. We've now unlocked it, and we're making it available to our membership at a very reasonable investment.
Can I just say that bragging about being in a high-rise building on a tropical island, that can only possibly sound appealing to someone who's never been in a high-rise building on a tropical.
Look, I'm hearing a lot of skepticism, and skepticism is it's the coping mechanism of the underleveraged. You might be coming from a low T perspective, but in this meeting, we prioritize high-rise condos on tropical islands.
Are you calling in from Dubai today, by the way? Not that it's an island, but the whole attitude you got going on.
Look, gentlemen, I think we'll just stick with the program. We can get into some discussion later on. I want to conduct the perimeter scan, okay? So the perimeter scan is, of course, a rapid briefing of this week's essential knowledge to ensure that you hit your daily data macros. So I'll open it up to the board. Gentlemen, what's the sit rep?
I don't know what's happening.
Don't leak on me, brother. I can taste the defensive musk.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spike your cortisol.
So this is like what we've been keeping our eyes on. I get it.
News, views. The perimeter scheme.
So I do have. So last week, Terrence Howard got brought up, not in our podcast, but I was just on a Reddit comment, and I remembered about his whole teriology, newfound mathematics, where 1 × 1 = 2. And I was curious about if there's any books out there. And turns out there's a number of them. A lot of them are like little pamphlets, not really books, like Terrence Howard, Redefining Reality, Redefining Gravity, The Healing Garden, Straight Lines in a Curved Universe, and The Equation Dilemma. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole of like taking a look at these. And I think it's so funny that almost all of them were written in August 2024 by Otteren Fredrik. And the guy released like 25 books, and they're all between 30 and 100 pages, all just like scam science things. And I'm trying to find copies of any of them, but I can't.
Cash might be able to get a copy for you. The guy sounds like he's maybe his neighbor in a high-rise apartment on Tropical Island.
I'll check into this guy. Yeah, we might know each other. It's possible we run in the same circles.
I think we should explore the Terrence Howard mathematics.
How did Terrence, because I mean, Terrence Howard is like the American actor who was like flying high. He was original the War Machine, I think, in the MCU, in like the first Iron Man movies. Then he got replaced by Don Cheadle because I think he wanted more money or something like that. But how did he kind of crash out and end up fascinated with this made up math science?
He was thinking about this for like years and years, but he never really went public with it. I don't want to give away too much, but it's essentially like if 2 × 2 = 4, then obviously 1 × 1 = 2. As far as I know, he's only released one like 9-page explanation of his thoughts.
Gotta say, I'm impressed with a guy who's able to overturn all of sort of science and mathematics in a tight 9 pages after reading 400 pages of shit this week for our feature book. 9 pages sounds like a delight.
I was pretty impressed by What the Bleep Do We Know for putting a racial slur in their movie title.
Jane, great. Thank you for your contribution. I appreciate it. I'll send it over to Dr. BD. Dr. BD, PhD, what are you looking at this week? What's in your perimeter scan?
I've got nothing, but now I just want to talk about What the Bleep Do We Know? So What the Bleep Do We Know was this like horrible documentary that came out, must be 15, 20 years ago. And it was produced by fucking who made it now?
It's made by the people who are the disciples of that woman who pretended to be like an Indian.
That's right. I don't remember anything. And it's like in the movie, they do experiments. Like they get jars of water and they go to one jar of water and they say, "Oh, you fucking piece of shit. You're a shitty water." And then they go to some other jar of water and they go, "I love you. You're the most beautiful, wonderful, tender little water." And then they go look at them under the microscope and they look different. And you can see this one's the angry one and the water changed. And the only other thing I remember from that movie is they claimed that when Columbus first arrived to the New World, the indigenous people couldn't see Columbus or his ships because they had no frame of reference for it. And it wasn't just they didn't know what it was, because clearly they wouldn't know what it was. It was they were physically incapable of seeing it.
Their minds couldn't comprehend it.
And then the European diseases didn't affect them because they'd never caught them before.
Gentlemen, we're getting off track a little bit here. That's in your perimeter scan? That comment's empty calories. All right, C-Dub. I'm going to pass the torch over to you. What's in your perimeter scan?
Perimeter scan, I just read a lot of children's books pretty much every single night. So I've done, Good Night Moon about, 12 times this week. That's nice. A classic. It's really maximizing my sleep hygiene.
That's important. Getting your REMs.
You should join one of those book competitions or like those little clubs where they try and like read like 100 books a year or something and just crush it.
With children's books. They're actually really nice. They're less than 50 words. Yeah. You read them. You feel kind of calm before you go to bed.
Well, thanks for that, C-Dub. All right. Well, look, just a few quick books that we're taking a look at that we're keeping an eye on. Hot releases. Fresh off the press. First one, Sigma Game, The Complete Socio-Sexual Hierarchy by Vox Day. From the back cover here, Sigma Game is the definitive guide to socio-sexual hierarchy, the first and only comprehensive treatment of the framework by its creator, 16 years after its introduction. It is not a pickup manual. It is not a self-help book. It is an observational model of male behavior based on a testable scientific hypothesis constructed by a best-selling philosopher. the normal behavior of the human male consists of a limited series of recognizable patterns. This came out March 3rd, 469 pages. It's a steal, $4.99 on Kindle. #1 in social theory on Amazon charts. Another book that we're keeping an eye on here, Testosterone Beginner's Handbook, Practical Guide to Understanding Testosterone, Boosting Energy, Building Strength, and Supporting Men's Health Naturally by Jack Eaton. This came out a couple months ago, January 26, 69 pages, $25.99 on hardcover. So you're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of about 45 cents a page, which is not a bad deal when you think about it. From the back cover, most men don't lose their edge overnight. It fades slowly, quietly until one day you realize your drive, strength, confidence, and energy aren't what they used to be. This handbook exists to stop that decline and reverse it naturally. No injections, no shady supplements, no medical jargon overload. Just clear, practical, male-focused guidance that puts you back in control of your body and your masculinity.
Jack Eaton, is that like a play on words pseudonym like Myron Gaines was?
What's the play?
I don't know, jacking off, eating pussy. Something like that. What do you think I mean?
Jack Eaton. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think you cracked the code. You done cracked it, C-Dub.
I guess, no, that's not very red pill, is it? That's cucked, I suppose.
Going down?
Yeah, they don't like that. I consider it like effeminate.
Like the Italians. All right, the last book that we're keeping an eye on, Unapologetic, Clarity and Conviction in a World Gone Crazy by Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Of course, we on the board, we all love the whole Huckabee family. From the back cover, Arkansas's governor and New York Times bestselling author Sarah Huckabee Sanders, a candid, no-nonsense account of fighting for conservative values, taking on the status quo and laying out her bold vision for the future. Sanders believes leadership is not about maintaining the status quo, but about having the courage to fight for the next generation. Unapologetic is a compelling testament about what it means to lead with conviction and live by enduring values in a fallen world. You're going to have to wait. I hope you're patient. November 10th, 2026 is the release date. 256 pages, $28.50 on hardcover.
Yeah, I wonder what's the point. I suppose it could just be a cash grab. And is she trying to, often politicians, if they're releasing a book, it's either a cash grab or they're, laying out their views for like an upcoming election or something.
I feel like she could write the book between now and November, though. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, sure. The team of ghostwriters that are writing this book, I'm sure, don't need that much time.
She was probably slowed down because of that Supreme Court ruling on using AI to write.
Yeah, of course. Okie doke. Well, that was the perimeter scan. I now yield the floor to my colleague for our in-depth examination of Roosh V and his thrilling memoir, American Pilgrim.
Thank you. Basically, the book is American Pilgrim by a guy called, his real name is Dariush Valizadeh, but he goes by the name Roosh V. The book is basically a former self-described pickup artist find religion and tours the U.S. But I guess who is Roosh V? We kind of have a long history of dealing with this guy in the Piece of Shit Book Club. He wrote some books. I almost said he's famous because he's not famous at all. But he wrote some books that got some traction. The first one called Bang, the Pickup Bible that helps you get more lays. And he wrote another book called Day Bang, Getting Laid During the Day. And then he toured around Eastern Europe for a period, writing books that were supposed to be travel specific to those countries, like Bang Estonia. Or after going to other countries where he didn't get laid, he'd write, Don't Bang Latvia, claiming obviously there's a problem with all Latvian women. But that's basically who this guy is. He recently, though, right before writing this book, found Jesus, and then the book dives into his journey across, a road trip across the U.S. But that's Roosh V. In the past, I think I read one. We discussed this before starting the pod, but I read one of his books called Pussy Paradise, not Pussy, but Pussy, because he's making a comment on how Eastern Europeans pronounce the word pussy. Chip read Day Bang?
I read Day Bang.
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you have any memory of it or any thoughts about it?
A few things that stand out to me was just some of the advice was so specific and like attempting to be like mathematical. It was a really dull read. Like there were parts where he'd show layouts of what the average cafe looks like and where you should sit in the cafe. Obviously, it was nearby the bathroom so that you could wait for a woman to take a piss to talk to her. He also, another piece of advice he had, I remember, was like, wait for women when you see them. Get ahead of a woman and wait for her to cross the street. It's okay to hide in the bushes while you're doing that.
Yeah,
which I think was such
you gotta
a funny
hide in the
thing.
hedge.
Advising guys to hide in the bushes and jump out to say, hello, hey, how's it going? You look really nice today. Yeah, I mean, it was advice on meeting women to bang them during the day. I think Cash covered the evening.
Yeah, Cash did. You mentioned you just happened to read the other one. But I guess that book was so upsetting that he's logged off and he's now no longer present in the meeting, which I'm fine with, to be completely honest with you.
Cash had a hard right turn this week.
Yeah. It's kind of, I was wondering, why are we doing Roosh V right now? There's obviously a lot more awareness of like the manosphere and all that type of stuff. It's not new, but there's been a few kind of high profile documentaries that have come out really recently on it. So, and there are a lot of prominent articles in, The Guardian and The Independent and all sorts of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of, part of the reason we're doing it is because of that history we have. I think part of the reason, which we might not have even thought about, but is a good justification for me, is he's technically shut down all this stuff online because he got a real job and he's now no longer present online, which for me is a very good reason, because we don't really need to be kind of kicking a hornet's nest of someone who actually has a popular following online who could be mobilized against us.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking that we could do? Because if this book is such, it's just, there's no structure to it. It's completely disorganized. I was thinking maybe we kind of talk a little bit about the framing of the book and then kind of go theme by theme. Because he obviously talks about religion, women, race, politics, that sort of stuff. So maybe just the framing of the book itself is, he's not famous, but he's got a community of followers who are paying him money, subscribers and stuff. And he's doing a book tour from New York to like Boston, then across to Wisconsin and down through the Rockies, California, then back across through Texas, the South, blah, blah, blah. He's just writing his thoughts as he goes. They're not deep insights. They're not special insights. But along the way, he's kind of doing a tour where he meets up with his subscribers, who are guys who want tips on what they call game, meaning, trying to sleep with women. And then he basically still talks about all that stuff while still claiming to be above the whole situation. He's still talking about trying to pick up women and quote unquote game, while also throwing in the message that he's now found the Lord and he's way above this life of sin. And he just admits that his followers are disappointed.
So
No, that's the best part.
Is this tour that he's on, is this to promote like his like newfound religion stuff? So it's not the pickup artist stuff.
It's just a paid like lecture series where people pay and they get to attend a dozen or 24 people turn up and they've paid for this. And there's also private dinners where like high tier subscribers can go to dinner with him. So it doesn't seem like he's pushing anything specific. Chip, I'm not sure if you agree.
Yeah, well, it's like, first off, he was such a veteran in that space that, he had people that he like basically calls them friends because he's probably met up with them dozens of times as he's done tours in the past and so on, right? Friends that pay to talk to him. But then he, it's like I think his transition into Christianity, and it's specifically like Eastern Orthodox or Armenian Orthodox Church, and then I think he later converted to the Russian Orthodox Church. But that was like 6 months before this. And so the lecture series that he's doing during the book is right when he's doing this transition and he's just taken his books offline, that sort of thing. So it's like, basically as Bo said, it seems like half the people that showed up are like, what the fuck? I'm here for tips to get laid. And this guy's just like babbling about faith and chastity and so on.
But that's only at the end of each talk. He still goes, the same as the book. He still goes through all like a huge chunk of this book is just descriptions of his sexual escapades, right? Of like these times he conquered these women and pulled these cool moves. And he's kind of still bragging about all that stuff. But then he ends everything with, but now I'm a man of God and I'm above that life of sin. So he's still trying to feed off that reputation he's got in that in that community and like grift them for their money.
Yeah.
It's just the grift is just changing. I mean, he's trying to have his pussy and eat it too, right? He wants he wants to get all the credit for being like a pickup guy, but still being a Christian, supposedly.
And yeah, there's enough of a through line with his perspective on like hating women that I imagine that's what a lot of his talks were. Like I watched some of his older talks too, and like a lot of it is just sort of like complaining about how manipulative women are and this sort of thing. So that fits with both his super religious turn and his hypersexual stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the arguments are all the same. The grift hasn't even barely changed. Cash has rejoined us following some troubling internet. You read Daybang, I think, one of his background books. What were your
No, he was Nightbang.
Nightbang, sorry, Nightbang. Oh, Nightbang or just Bang?
Just Bang.
Just Bang. How was it?
So it's actually an interesting read. So the book is at this point almost 20 years old, right? So it's sort of an artifact of a specific era, and it almost seems quaint. It's a tactical manual, right? I think as Chip had said about Daybang, it's hyper specific. It's almost completely devoid of ideology, at least explicit ideology. Like certainly there's like a lot of, implied ideas about women in it, but it's so hyper specific, as you were saying about Daybang. So like, but it's almost quaint. So like he talks about it's acceptable to go on upwards of 5 dates with a woman before you sleep with her. So although it's called Bang, it's really just a general manual about how to be a human, but for guys with, really no clue and who don't mind being creeps.
Yeah. I would say buy a guy who has no clue and has no problem being a creep.
100%. Like he's got something called, so some people might think of it as brilliant or like, he's sort of hacking social etiquette, but it is just a guy who has absolutely no shame. And this is his term. After the date, when you're escorting a woman home, you're driving her home, whatever it is, to get into her house, he says you absolutely must pull, quote, the bathroom weasel technique. And so to gain entry to a woman's home, he calls it a low-tech strategy of asking to use her bathroom. And if she says no, then you escalate to what he calls stage 2 escalation. Like, okay, well, do you know like a good alleyway around here where I can pee then? And then if that doesn't work, you escalate to stage 3 escalation. And he says, quote, I've never had a girl say no after stage 3 escalation, even if the date was mediocre. I repeat, this line has never failed me. And so basically, after taking a woman out, you just sort of badger her on the street or in your car to use her bathroom until she relents.
So what was stage 3 escalation though? Just like pissing his pants?
I'd have to check the text. Yeah, it's it's just sort of like a series of escalating like bizarre threats about where you're going to pee or how you're going to pee. Until
if you soil yourself, she has to let you in.
Yeah, it's the law. It's like cosmic law. If you're a normal guy and you're reading this book, I don't see how you don't consider it insult to your intelligence. Like it's just basic social conduct. Like one of the things that he teaches you is like how to talk to a moving woman. And like by moving, I mean like a woman who is walking. So this is, I'll read a quote if you'll permit it. So if you're planted and she's walking by you, make eye contact and deliver the line as she's moving. Understand that it may take a second or two for her to realize you were talking to her. In both cases, speak loudly. Many times a girl may seem to ignore you, not because she was trying to snub you, but because she didn't hear you or didn't know you were talking to her.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he I'm sure we'll get into it as Bo continues, but like Roosh really approaches humans like he's an alien. Like he does not have a basic intuitive understanding of how to interact with human beings. And that's why he like sort of he needs these like strange structures to work within.
Yeah, like he's got something similar about body language. So this is like another quote. He says, quote, body language is sometimes a useful indicator of whether she's interested or not. It's like, okay. Continuing, if during conversation, you note a negative change in her body language where she appears to be closing off to you by folding her arms or turning away, change what you're doing. It's like, some of the stuff in the book, like you kind of want to give him credit because he innovated this genre for modern audiences. So it's like sometimes you're thinking like you watch like The Godfather or something like that, and you're like, oh, I did that camera technique, that cinematography technique, or that sort of plot point. It's so cliche, but it's only cliche now because it was so revolutionary at the time. It's been adopted by dozens and dozens of films since. So you're like, is Roosh V? Maybe he's just like this like brilliant innovator but it's not the case. It's just fucking stupid. Like telling guys how to talk to a woman that's moving or how to read a lady's body language by whether or not she has her arms folded.
Maybe Birth of a Nation is a better comparison as in terms of advancing the medium with awful.
Perhaps so.
So that's this guy. This guy then discovers Jesus, finds Jesus, and you only find this out in like the last couple of pages of the books. 8 months after finding Jesus, when he, for the record, lives with his mother, he goes on this tour. And I think maybe if we do decide to break it up in terms of themes, let's give the guy credit. He claims this is a book about religion. So maybe we can talk about religion first, about how he deals with religion, about what he's claiming, about how it actually affects anything he says, all that type of stuff. Chip already mentioned this, but Roosh does come from like an Armenian background and grew up as a member of the Armenian Orthodox Church. So that's kind of what he's converted to. And if nothing else, it makes him kind of unique in this weird space of like grifters who convert to Christianity, like Russell Brand or whoever else, because he's Orthodox. And that is a little bit odd. That is a bit unique because most of them naturally kind of go to that sort of like more charismatic, right-wing Protestant evangelical stuff. So that does make him technically a little bit different.
For example, he goes to Joel Osteen's presentation at one point, and he just absolutely hates it. He has a bunch of criticism of the U.S. megachurch systems.
I don't claim to be any expert on Orthodoxy, but the churches are very different. One of the things that's most noticeable to someone who's Protestant or Catholic is the use of icons. In that different sects of Orthodoxy have icons, pictures of saints of that they are very, very sacred. That in some Serbian and Russian Orthodox churches they'll go into the church to kiss these icons. They're revered, and one of the things that drives him crazy, he goes to an icon museum, I forget where, and he's irate that these Russian icons are being held in a museum by people dedicated. It's specifically a museum for icons, but he's outraged that they're not in a church and that these horrible people are protecting these icons by keeping them in a museum.
I think Orthodox churches have more focus on like state church alignment. I think generally speaking, what did they believe in? It's like deosis or something. There's I can't remember the word. It's like some notion that like by actively practicing the faith you become more godly, as opposed to like purely ritualistic practice, which is something that I think is present because like when he talks about his faith or whatever in the book, he's always talking about how he prayed to God and God like instantly responded. Like he's falling asleep while he was driving. He prayed to God to keep him up. And then he's like, oh, perfect. I stayed up. That's a miracle right there. God listened to me.
Those are my favorite kind of miracles.
And then he prays for God to get rid of his rash. And he's still itchy the next day. And he's like, I guess God's just needs me to endure this. And it turns out to be scabies.
Yeah, you're touching on a lot of points
I'm sorry.
that I want to talk about.
Well,
Let's just go straight to the scabies. Because this is one of the things insane about this book.
So
is he's got this crotch rot that like spreads over his body. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't go to a doctor, and he doesn't want to use Western medicine. So he just puts tea tree oil on it, which he admits just makes it worse. But he keeps going because obviously it's Satan spreading this rash, and he speculates at different points it's scabies, it's bed bugs, or an allergy or a rash. But just how disgusting this man is, that he's traveling across the country spreading whatever he's got into all these hotel rooms without doing anything about it. Like that speaks to what type of guy he is.
There's a compendium series of videos to the book, but he released like hours and hours of an edited travel log. And in it, like he looks disheveled. I don't know if it's part of his sort of monastic conversion, but just long hair, unkempt beard. And it's, if you found the book long and tedious, this is not going to do you any favors, because it's longer. It's sort of the long form version of a 400-page book that didn't need to be written. But yeah, no, he looks, my general point is, like, he looks like a hobo in all of the videos. So you can fully imagine him having scabies. It's not
yeah, but it also, at the same time, all that comes across as like so performative from him.
Yeah.
Like, you just get this feeling that he looked in the mirror and started to get a couple gray hairs, and he was like, I guess I'm a wise guru now. Like, I'm not as welcome at the club anymore. I must suddenly be spiritual. It's like the same as like Russell Brand and all those guys. You know what I mean? As soon as they start to go gray, it's like, grow the long beard, the long hair.
Grow your scabies. Chip also mentioned the miracles, and there's a couple of the miracles in the book, and he does describe these as miracles. One of them is he was tired, and then he spoke to himself and prayed, and then he didn't feel tired anymore. And the other one was
the best.
The other miracle is,
praise the Lord.
Praise be. The other one is when he sees some video on YouTube, and the next day he speaks to someone who's also seen that video on YouTube, and he's like, "That's a sign from God." Because what other explanation could there be? And because the devil and the God, they work in mysterious ways, and one of them is YouTube. But he also at some point gets recommended or suggested a video on YouTube about walking away from religion. He's like, that's proof that Satan's behind YouTube, because I got recommended this video.
And I maybe it's too early to talk about it, but there's a part where at the end in the epilogue where he's talking about miracles and demons and things like that. But
it's up to you.
With the crack house?
Yeah, the crack house. I honestly had a really good time with this book. Like, so it's jumping way ahead, but in the epilogue, he moves into a crack house in the mountains, like in the Appalachians, to try and sort of get some peace and live a solitary life
away from his mom.
Yeah, he moves out of his mom's house. He rents this place, like I guess, sight unseen.
Crack houses are notoriously chaotic, though, not
Sorry,
peaceful.
I apologize. It's a
former
former
crackheads in it when he rents it.
He moves in. So he moves in. The place stinks like urine, right? Like just horribly like animal urine. And then he moves in anyway. He keeps complaining to the landlord, and they won't fix it. And then it's this disgusting place. And he's reading a book about demons at this point in the book, and he keeps having nightmares about demons. And he's like, okay, these are the demons like trying to infect my mind. And then he learns later on that it was a former crack house. And he's like, okay, that's why it smells like piss, right?
Or he's on stage 3, the piss pissing stage.
But then his conclusion, if
the one time it failed,
they were all the former tenants were all his former cadres. Just all pissing themselves trying to get laid. But he says that at the conclusion of it, when he realizes, okay, sorry, after all his nightmares and things like that in the piss house, he says, who knew what kinds of evil these addicts had committed? Intoxication for sure, and probably fornication day after day. Okay, maybe it actually was his followers, now that I come to think of it. But he says, strengthening the powers of evil on the mountain. What had the neighborhood demon thought when he found out that a man of repentance and prayer would be moving in? He formulated a plan to trip me up by sending me the most vile of dreams, which are his nightmares about demons. And then he also says, the demon further influenced my landlord with the property management company and the house's owner not to make necessary repairs, to make me stew in the animal toilet and send me packing back to the city of sin. But by the end of it, he's just like a crazed schizophrenic.
You Chip, had said in our discussion leading up to this transmission today that unlike a lot of guys who are just soaked in irony or maybe irony poison themselves, you think this guy is basically 100% on the level, sincere about almost everything that he says.
There's things I don't think he's sincere about, but I think generally like what what Roosh takes away from things and the ideas he forms, like the lessons he takes from whoever he interacts with, he presents them without any irony.
I'm still trying to formulate an opinion about this guy. He seems like super naive, and he seems very he's almost like a babe in the woods kind of thing. Like I'm thinking about when he's visiting early in the book, he's visiting Boston or something like that, and he sees birds bathing, and someone's like, Roosh, that's a bird bath. He's like, my God, one of the most wondrous things I've ever laid my eyes on in my whole life. And so, like, you think this guy, is he putting it on, or like, is this guy just like, what's up with this guy? I can't quite put my finger on him.
That stood out to me too. He's like, I didn't know birds did that. Like, who hasn't heard
never
of a
seen a
fucking
Looney
bird
Tunes
bath?
cartoon? Like, a fucking bird bath is a staple of like old timey cartoons.
There's another part where he's going on a farm and he's like, I learned there that hay is made from grass.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
There's also a part where he goes to the Rocky Mountains and he says, and this is a quote, I'd heard of the name Rocky Mountains, but never knew where it was or what it contained. I mean, it's pretty clear from the fucking name.
He stays on the Amish dairy farm and he goes to the milking bar and he's like, and I saw the farmer attach an apparatus to the teats of the cow, and that's how I knew they were female. It's like, yeah, dude, what kind of milk do you think they're making?
Salty milk.
No, I think my take is that, like, I don't think he's doing anything deliberately ironic, but I don't think Roosh, the way he interacts with things, I think he can only do things as like in a persona. And then this book is like him being like innocent again as a newfound Christian. And he's like, but like everything he does, whether it's like the basic, just talking to people and meeting people, he has to develop this whole weird system to like, overpower the female mind and control it. And then when he goes, if he's going to become Christian, he has to become like the most Christian, like demon-filled, blah, blah, blah person ever. Or not demon-filled, but surrounded by demons and fighting them off.
I think it's brilliant. I think you're spot on. I think that kind of perfectly kind of summarizes like the theme of religion, because that's what the religion is for in this book. It's to create a persona, and it's to weaponize against other people. Because there's no reflections on religion in this book. No, nothing.
No.
There's no kind of like road to Damascus moment where he sees the light and comes to Christianity. There's no explanation of why he became Christian or anything else. It's just a piece of leverage to use to attack. And you also mentioned about, his views on women, which I think is probably a pretty good segue to this, what the book is probably more really about. And it's the second theme that I guess we could talk about is his views on women and how he treats women.
I thought the book was really about libraries and how he perceives them.
Well, as a sub theme, he goes to them constantly and perceives them very negatively because they're filled with homeless people, and he doesn't think that homeless people should be allowed in libraries. And he gets particularly upset at one point when he sees a homeless guy defecating, that's his term, defecating in the toilet in the library, and he thinks that's outrageous. And it's like, isn't that where you want them? Would you rather they defecated in the streets?
Yeah.
I've put together a compendium of all of his library comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mentions of libraries. So it's a travel log. And as he goes to each town, he visits a public library, and he uses the cleanliness of the library as a proxy for how well that town is functioning, how vile or pleasant it might be. So like in Concord, Massachusetts, for example, healthy environment, no homeless loitering. Similarly, Hamden, Connecticut, not one homeless person present. But then Spokane, Washington, a quarter of the library patrons are homeless. Asheville, North Carolina, more than half filled with homeless. Martinburg, packed with homeless people. As you say, like he leaves I think more than once, he leaves the library because he's waiting. He can't get into the washroom because it's so filled with homeless people using the washroom. And one of the things about homeless people that he really dislikes, that he mentions a number of times in the book, is that they're sitting there all streaming action movies on their phones instead of reading books. And like, for whatever reason, that just drives him bananas. Guy doesn't like library patrons using the free Wi-Fi to stream action movies.
Or using the toilet. But
or using the toilet, yeah.
Going to stage 2 of the escalation in the library.
Just homeless people just trying to get laid. That's what's going on. They're on stage 4. Take a dump.
He's gatekeeping the library bathroom, and they're trying to pull escalation tactics on him. Sorry, but yeah, back to women is what the book is really about.
No, it's okay. We're used to kind of you pushing aside the topic of women. But yeah, if we go back to women, so that's kind of what, it shouldn't be a surprise the guy's a misogynist and he has deeply misogynistic and offensive views. That almost goes without saying.
Yeah.
All women everywhere want him. That's how he interprets it. He's, a woman at a supermarket asks him where he's from. That's proof that she wants him. There's 2 women sitting at a table in a cafe with what he calls an effeminate man. That's proof that they want Roosh V. There's another instance where they're in a coffee shop and he says, as the hours dragged on, the girls just kept looking at me. They were clearly dying to interact with a man. So, or maybe you've been sitting next to a table of women in a cafe for hours staring at them and they're looking back at you because you look like a fucking psycho.
Yeah. That's a really constant, like, general theme. It's how Roosh reaches his conclusions on anything is sort of just like sitting alone.
Yeah.
Or kind of acting like a weirdo and then making a small observation and then drawing some fantastical conclusions from it. Oh, I made eye contact with the woman. She was clearly in love with me. This woman didn't answer all my questions immediately. She was hiding something from me. Like, you have to be suspicious of them, XYZ.
He seems to have a compulsion towards women. Like in a video I watched of him from this cross-country trip he's in, where was he in? Wisconsin. And he's talking about filling out, similar to how you described, he's filling out an application for a loyalty card in a drugstore. And he mentions that he's traveling around. And according to his description, the female clerk who was helping him, her eyes open widely and she'd never really met a worldly man before. And he could tell that he could definitely have had her back in his old days. And Wisconsin, this town that he's in, is really challenging for him because there's like lots of 6 and 7s walking around who are like, he's not into the supermodel type. What really, really troubles him is like, there's this abundance of gettable women, or like, as he perceives it, gettable women in this town, wherein the men are all soy boys. It's his term. He's like, he said they have punchable faces and they're soy boys. And watching this video, like, he's like, you could tell he's conflicted. Like, in his head, he's just like, yeah, back in my old days, I could have got her no problem, but not anymore. That's not me now. And it's like, it's this guy trying to fight. And I don't even think it's like necessarily a sexual thing for him. I mean, we get into it maybe later. It's like, this guy, there's signs that this guy might be gay. I think he could be like a deeply closeted man, but either way, he's got like this compulsion about getting women. I don't know where it comes from. And it's really apparent.
Yeah, there's definitely something more to it. Like, I don't know if gay, like, to me, it's just this like paranoid, like, hatred of women.
Yeah.
Like, even ones that go to his events, like, he talks several times about ones that go to his events that were like wearing a tight shirt. And he's like, I looked at her breasts like 6 times during the talk. And it was like driving me mad. And like, why was she dressed so provocatively? Like, what kind of sin hath the devil cast toward me? And you're like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
Because he's also a racist. In addition to being a sexist, there's like a black lady who shows up at one of his events and he assumes that she must be an Antifa mole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I have a quote, if I can read on him, when I was mentioning about being sort of like paranoid about women. So one thing through this is that, like, he's trying to move away from women of lust and try to find a traditional girl is like a big part of the book. But he says at a talk in Portland, he's talking about a woman who dressed provocatively. He says,
sorry, now I'm distracted because Cash's shirt's coming off. What kind of lustful temptation is this? What wrath hath God visited on me?
I don't know if it's just me or it's Chip, but I had to take the old top off, going tarpless.
So he's talking about a woman he went on a date with, right? And he says, what God would send me a woman whose appearance made me think of her sexual attributes before her faith. I remember back in Indiana when I asked my young date not to wear anything sexy. For future dates, maybe I should not tell a woman what to wear. Just see what her instinct is. Wow. If she wears something revealing, I can take out my prayer book and begin preaching the gospel to her. Men simply were not designed to decode the numerous manipulations that women throw at them.
Straight up.
Yeah, it's that, and the problem is always the women as well. It's not like a sincere reflection on his own, the way he views women or treats them. There's none of that. It's all, how dare they? What are they doing? These women walking around showing themselves. Like, he's just got such contempt for them, constantly writing about random women he sees and critiquing their appearance, criticizing like women who go to university. They shouldn't do that. It's sort of like, not to get to my conclusions on the book as a whole, but it really led me. I used to hate the guy, and I almost now kind of feel really sorry for him, because it sounds like such a miserable experience to go through life. And we haven't even talked about race or queerness yet, which are two of the other themes we could talk about. Just going through life being outraged by anyone you see that's slightly different than you must be such a miserable experience.
Yeah, he's a massive loser.
Yeah, yeah. And also, he thinks that if you're turned on by a woman's ass, that means you're gay.
Like, does, wait. Well, let's get into this, because now we're really getting into the meat of the matter,
so to speak. He's basically, it's a throwaway line in the epilogue or the appendix, where he basically just says, like, yeah, if you're turned on by an ass, then that's just one. That's the next step is obviously fucking a dude in the ass. Because how could you be attracted to a woman's ass without thinking about having sex with a man?
But in Bang, he talks constantly about touching a woman's ass, caressing her butt, being attracted to her butt.
Are you suggesting he might contradict himself sometimes?
I think it's another data point. This guy might not be on the level.
Oh, we should organize a Roosh V Roosh section.
Roosh V Roosh.
Roosh V Roosh V.
That's a missed opportunity.
And it's also this really pathetic lack of like responsibility or reflection or accountability for himself. Like, when he talks about his past life, it's as if he's a victim of this sinful world that he was forced to participate in, essentially, and largely because women are such whores.
Yeah,
in his words, not mine. But
that's exactly it. It's the same grift. It's the same basic worldview, just replacing one key element, and putting like this preaching element in front of it, instead of the that hyper positioning yourself as, I have access to universal knowledge and I know the one true God and all that type of stuff, as opposed to before hyper positioning himself as being, I'm the one who has access to the pussy. I'm the one that, knows how to manipulate the women.
I cringe every time you say it like that.
It's so bad.
It's how he writes it. POOSY.
Oh, I know. I've looked at the book jacket. I only made it through about half of American Pilgrim before I had to drop it. I didn't love it nearly as much as Chip did, but his ideology hasn't really shifted very much at all. Okay, he's no longer a fornicator, as he says, but he's still he's completely misogynistic. He still doesn't like immigrants. He still doesn't like black people. He still doesn't like gays. The Orthodox conversion just gives him sort of a permission structure or a framework in order to project these existing prejudices that he has.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a criticism of the religion, but how he's practicing it.
And for him, it's still ultimately about getting a woman and controlling her. It's like the long game versus the short game, right? I have a quote on this that I think was really relevant. I'd like Cash to hear, if you don't mind.
Please.
Roosh at one point says he's thinking about like the necessity of getting married, right? Versus MGTOW, which, by the way, I found out he really hates MGTOW. He's like made fun of it a lot in the past.
Really?
What's MGTOW?
Men going their own way.
Men going their own way.
It's what Cash Donington subscribes to.
Sort of like similar to Black Pill.
It's a men's right movement philosophical perspective. The idea that you don't need women in your life. It's sort of like it's the realm of divorced guys and virgins.
Yeah, it's divorce core.
just like stay out of my way, and I'm going to stay at home and eat alphagetti out of the can and play video games. And, you can't tell me what to do, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. They used to have a great subreddit where it'd be a mix of people, guys on like kind of shitty sailboats holding a beer, or guys just sitting around playing video games being like, got the house to myself. No one's going to tell me what to do. But when Roosh is talking about like, his pursuit of faith and like how it's so necessary to find like a good woman and things, he says, even if being a mature masculine man doesn't get me a wife and lead to the creation of a family, I still have God. He will help me bear the cross of remaining alone for the rest of my life. That would be impossible without God. To secure the sexual pleasure I would so desperately need, I would have to spend an hour a day in the gym, take steroids, get a hair transplant, inject my forehead creases with Botox, and travel to Southeast Asia, merely to have fleeting sexual encounters that won't save me in the end.
Well, look,
it sounds like a familiar lifestyle to me.
I'm in Southeast Asia. I'm in the gym an hour a day. I'm taking hair pills. I'm using face creams. I haven't injected anything anywhere yet, but it's a little too close for comfort. But I don't have his black pilled outlook,
despite the products we were introduced the podcast with and so on.
Look, but despite all of this guy's yearning for a trad wife, as far as we know, he's single. He's still rolling solo by the ladies' bathroom, at the Orthodox church or wherever he might be hanging out these days. He blames it on his past and his notoriety, but I imagine his personality's got to have something to do with it.
Yeah, he's not that notorious. You'd kind of a while ago, Cash, had kind of made the comment about how he's using this framework to not just hate women, but to hate lots of other people too. So maybe it's worth having a quick discussion on that, because he's pretty openly racist. Like, I don't think he wouldn't describe himself as being racist, but he says some pretty wacky shit, and as throwaways in the book. Like at one point he talks about he's reflecting on slavery. And he says, black slavery is looked upon as one of the saddest stories in human history. But many slaves took up Christianity and were saved because of it, and their descendants continue to worship Christ exuberantly in modern America. How many black people would not have been saved if they stayed in Africa and adopted various voodoo, shamanistic, or cannibalistic practices? Was the benefit of eternal salvation for a few worth the many who had been chained as slaves? Basically, yes, it wasn't that bad for slavery. They're better off now because they're Christian, which is not only ludicrously stupid and a bit racist, but you also have to kind of not really understand where slaves were taken from and understand that a lot of that were Christian, what are now Christian countries, Christian predominant countries. So if the people had just been left on their own, they probably would have converted to slavery. If the people had been left on their own, they probably would have been converted to Christianity anyway.
This guy needs some brain force. Head over to brainforce.bluechipclub.shop. Got great deals right now. Buy 3, get for as low as $49. That's at brainforce.bluechipclub.shop.
He also goes on to do the stupid and everybody's a slave now in this consumer society, man.
Yeah.
It's like this, he's got this teenage angst thing.
So who's the real slave? Yeah.
It's so fucking dumb.
As he goes from town to town, there's sort of I think maybe we've talked about it a little bit, but the book there's no narrative arc. There's not really any conflict and resolution. It's really just kind of a matter of fact telling of his travel from town to town as he's doing this lecture tour across the US. And in almost every town or city he visits, there's 4 things that he highlights. So we talked about the libraries. He also describes his perception of the black people in that town. And he talks about how many gay pride flags he sees. And then he'll comment on the quantity and quality of non-whites or immigrants in that town. And that's those are the 4 reoccurring themes that you see again and again and again as he travels around.
On the racism stuff, what's kind of odd to me too is that it's something that he just states matter of fact, but he doesn't really he doesn't provide any argument for it, however flimsy the argument may be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's one where he just drops a conversation obviously I want to live next to people who are the same race as me, and that's a very normal opinion to have. It's like, no, it's not.
But he's not white. He's his ethnicity, to the best of my knowledge, he's half Armenian and half Persian.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's ethnically Persian. He could be ethnically Armenian, Iranian. But like, let's kind of conveniently sidestep the question of who's white and who's not. I know that's a conversation you really want to have, but let's just say that he.
Back to Italians.
Look,
again.
I'm not the arbiter of who's white and who's not, but according to Stormforce and other sort of like white pride movements that he's tried to align with, they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a few famous, like there's what's that the famous Proud Boy guy who is like I don't care.
Enrique Tarrio?
Maybe I don't know the guy's name, but he is an ethnicity that self-described Aryan racists would consider to be not Aryan. And he most certainly does not look the way that, a self-described Aryan racist would say an Aryan person looks.
That's the case with like half of the big white supremacist coalition now, is that they're not white. I don't know if you noticed that. Like Nick Fuentes.
I'm not that plugged
was that guy
in.
we're talking about, Sneeko. All these guys.
Oh, yeah,
like
right.
None of them are white.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Nick Fuentes is white?
Well, he's Hispanic, isn't he? Okay, I think he's the type of white where, if they ever got in power, they'd narrow the definition and kick him out pretty quickly.
But he's also, his parents are immigrants, I believe. Like, he's just got some really odd feelings and views about white people and about immigration for a guy who a lot of people wouldn't necessarily count as white. And again, I'm not the arbiter. I don't even see race. I don't care who's white or not white, but some people do, and he doesn't qualify.
I think mentioning his family, at one point he talks about how accepting his family is, and they accept his past sins of lust and whatever. And he writes, I think this is a great quote, because he's saying things I don't think he realizes he's saying. But he talks about his family and says, quote, "I'm not proud of what I've done, but at least with family, I don't have to worry about being harshly judged. I imagine I could commit a heinous anti-Semitic crime and still be accepted by them."
I mean, those are, like being accepted for being like, a legendary philanderer or fornicator is one thing, but being accepted for being just like a big time anti-Semite, like that's two different baskets.
He's extremely anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Like there's one point where he mentions he was talking with someone, or on his tour, there was these guys talking about World War II. And he's like, they didn't bring up the Holocaust or Jews, so I had nothing to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah. I wrote down the exact same quote. But there's another part in the book as well where because one thing he does repeatedly is describe YouTube videos that he watches, which is obviously mind-numbingly dull. At one point, he describes some video that he says is the funniest thing he's ever seen.
No action movies.
He says it's the funniest video he's ever seen, and it's called Jewish ASMR video. And it's basically a video of someone in a really bad costume as a rabbi with obviously a big fake nose and everything, just doing ASMR and like rubbing money close together by the microphone. And he thinks this is the funniest thing he's ever seen. And it's at an 8th grader level. Like it's so lame.
But look at Bang and Day Bang. Like this is not a mature, advanced intellect here. Like this guy is, he's calling his penis like a snake. He's calling women's genitals pussy. Like this is a guy working with an 8th grade kind of sense of sensibility.
He is. Like Roosh is extremely dumb. He's like a child. But he is also a grifter. And then I do wonder how much the racist stuff is just like speckled in there. Like it's not even like dog whistle, but like, because at one point he mentions
that's a human whistle.
Yeah, it's a foghorn. And he mentions he meets Nick Fuentes on this tour. He talks about like the Groypers. He talks about like that movement and so on and so forth. So I wonder how much at this point he's trying to do this like pivot to like some kind of Christian stuff. He still has plans to release stuff. So maybe he's just kind of getting into the whole unabashed racist kind of grift. He's trying it out a bit.
Well, especially when he came out with this, like this book was 2021. It was very hot at that time.
But yeah, in addition to, we've kind of already mentioned this a few times, but in addition to hating, Black people, Mexicans, women, whoever else, he also really, really hates queer people. And every time it's constant in the book mentioned that he just happens to see a person who looks gay or trans, or he just happens to see, an LGBTQ friendly sticker on the front of a cafe and refuses to go in, which, I suppose means the sticker's working. But he's also like, he attends a Pride event at one point, and he comes to this like insane conclusion. In New York. He comes to this insane conclusion that the real reason of Pride is to basically, like the real goal is to affect women. I'll read the quote so you can just hear it in his own words. Because he goes to the event and he sees lots of women there, and he assumes they must be heterosexual because they quote unquote look heterosexual. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're allies. Maybe they're lesbians. But anyway, he says, based on the huge presence of heterosexual women, I concluded that all gay propaganda, from the rainbow flag to the empty slogan, love is love, is not targeted at gays at all, but straight women. It is meant to suck them into a degenerate lifestyle of fornication and intoxication, to develop a hatred for the type of man who is most capable of creating a strong family and resisting the evils of homosexuality. The purpose of gay pride is not only to pat gays on the back, but to destroy female innocence, to bombard them with a lifestyle of sex and drugs, to render them sterile. And it's working, because I was stunned at how many attractive women were cheering with their gay flags. It's like, what are you talking about? I am so
confused by that, because didn't he do all of that? Like sleeping with a bunch of women.
Yeah. No self-reflection on that. No self-reflection that he may have hurt other people or encouraged them to commit sin. That was the devil.
Basically the same. I was going to say, you forgot, Jane, that was the women's fault.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's my bad.
Yeah. They weren't victims of the bathroom weasel technique. It was Satan.
Right. But now this time it's not the women's fault. It's the gays. Gotcha.
No, it's the gays in this one they're basically like the proxies for Satan. So Satan can get at the women, because the real perpetrator are the demons. And yeah, the goal is to turn women against men, right?
Gotcha.
It all comes down to demons. I mean, Tuberculosis Jonathan in book number 2 we did was right. It's all about the demons. So for keen listeners, go back, check out that episode.
There's about 15 or so towns where he gives a count of the number of gay flags that he sees. And it's like, it's just it's a strange thing to catalog in a book. It doesn't really make for compelling reading. Like Hood River, Oregon, quote, disproportionate number of gay flags. Washington, D.C., can't turn your head without seeing multiple. Boston, 5. He saw 5 gay flags in Boston, including one displayed, quote, at the Mammoth Boston Public Library. He's just really, really irritated by it.
That's also a really bad metric, because it depends on which area you're going to. If you're in Haight-Ashbury, or I think that's what it's called, in San Francisco or something like that, you're going to see gay flags everywhere. But if you're out in the suburbs, you're probably going to see a little bit less.
He also somehow during his tour accidentally books his events at gay venues several times, and he's horrified about it, which is kind of funny. But this thing where he's describing how many gay flags there are, also people in tattoos, how many gay people he saw walking around. It feels like it's genuinely maybe 10% of the book's content.
Yeah, as you say, he doesn't tie it to any kind of larger ideological exploration, or there's no kind of deep thoughts. It's really the book really is just went to New Bedford, Massachusetts, one gay pride flag flying at City Hall. Black people in this town seem pleasant. The library was half filled with hobos. I couldn't pee in the bathroom. And this goes on for 403 pages, town after town after town. So I couldn't get through it. As the host of this show, I feel a responsibility to try to read the book every week. And I struck out last episode because that wasn't a real book. the Juan Fallon book. This one here, it's more of a book, but it's barely a book. It's just a collection of words on a page. So, look, I know this is a piece of shit book club, and we're not going to get great books every week. That's kind of the point. But yeah, I couldn't make it through this one. I'm sorry.
We haven't even touched on his politics yet. So I don't know if we want to touch on that quickly as like the last theme before we wrap things up. But yeah, it shouldn't be surprising that he's right wing. It shouldn't be surprising that he's pro-Trump. But one of the weird things about how he talks about politics in this book is he basically talks to a random person, writes down everything they say, and reports it as objective fact. Like at one point, he has a conversation with a guy who's a government insider, and he asks him if Pizzagate is real. And the guy says, Pizzagate is real. And he also says, if you heard that, pedophiles are extracting adrenochrome from children and celebrities take it to appear young, but Trump put a stop to that. That's why Celine Dion looks older than she used to look. Well, it's also because of time.
Yeah, Titanic was 30 years ago.
And he's constantly checking in with people who are saying like the government's coming after you because you're exposing the truth. And he talks to another government insider, and he says, Roosh asks, would you also say it's accurate that we are essentially ruled by satanic pedophiles? The guy responds, yes, I would say it's accurate. That's why I think there's at least one federal agent on your tour. And it's like, you think you'd recognize, like, you've only got 12 people in the audience. If there's the same person turning up, maybe the federal agent is the guy with the sombrero and the fake mustache sitting in the back,
He also, that first guy he talks to, the guy says to him that he asks the guy, he's like, so we're ruled over by vampire pedophiles? And the guy's like, satanic vampire pedophiles. And he's, the good news is that Trump's trying to dismantle this. And then later on he says, nice. The only way they can stop Trump is the only way they can cover it up is if they start World War III. They believe that'll cover it all up, which I thought was kind of funny with everything going on today, the idea of alleged pedophiles starting World War III.
It's also, it jumps back and forth between we're ruled by pedophiles and then praising Donald Trump, like forgetting A, that he's in charge, and B, that he's, widely accused of pedophilia. But there's also like this constant victim complex of like, they're trying to shut me down because I'm speaking truth. And it always reminds me of, there's this meme that's done the rounds a number of times. There's a right-wing British commentator called Katie Hopkins. And she did this post, I think on Twitter, where she put a sticker of a target on her head, and she just posted, "This is what it feels like to be a conservative woman." And the top response is, "This is the perfect metaphor because it's a fake target and you put it there yourself." And that's exactly what this guy feels like constantly. It's like just this right wing complaining about like, I can't say all my racist shit, and that's why I'm the real victim.
Yeah, the duct tape over your mouth posters before your comedy tour kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like the same kind of shit. And I think he just says straight up, he's like, government should be a monarchy led by a man connected to God. So he's like, he also expresses like a complete opposition to the modern U.S., like not even just, right-wing Christian aligned U.S. Like he says that's not enough.
That's increasingly a popular viewpoint within the right wing. Like these fucking redcoat traitorous bastards who yearn for King Charles and pedophile Andrew to rule over them.
And want Chucky back?
It's pathetic. And all he does is whine and bitch. And you have the gall to call other people soy boys when all you're going to do is bitch and moan about everything that you don't like. Where's the resilience?
Yeah. Not just things you don't like, but people who are living their own lives and having zero impact on you. Or you go to their towns just to write about what, the flags that are upsetting you. It's I don't know.
Why does he live in his mom's basement?
I think he was living in Eastern Europe, and it's not really described in the book, but he had a relationship with some Polish woman that, she dumped him, and he thought she was going to become a trad wife. And then he moved back to the States and moved in with his mom for a while before eventually going on this tour to, it sounds like a kind of, the more you think about it, the more it sounds like a desperate cash grab. He explains why he was exhausted and disheveled looking and covered in scabies.
Right.
Maybe he couldn't afford to go to, it's the US. Maybe he couldn't afford to get treatment for whatever he had. He wouldn't have health care.
That could be.
I also wonder if he just like racked up a bunch of STDs, to be honest.
Yeah.
He addresses, so the video that I watched, he addresses something about, STDs. Whereas in Bang, he's like, yeah, you're going to get molluscum. You might get wart here or there. But, if you're not man enough for a couple minor skin diseases, this ain't the game for you, brother. So it's like,
yeah,
it's a guy who he knows his way around an STI.
Yeah. Now he's riddled with scabies. He's got like a long gray beard, and he can't get into the VIP section anymore. Oh, actually, I think the reason he moves back to the U.S. is because it's like his sister dies.
Oh, yeah.
His sister gets cancer and dies. It's not really covered that much in the book, other than kind of like reflecting on missing her a couple times. But that. It seems like that's maybe connected to his like religious pivot.
Yeah. But the connection's never really explicitly made. And that's, it's not going to make fun of that. That's sad and horrible anytime someone is, cut down in
big time.
Presumably what would be her prime or close to it. That's obviously tragic. And it's completely understandable how that could lead someone to religion. But that in a book on religion, that's sort of the thing you'd think you'd speak about. Like talking about your vulnerability or the things you're grappling with or struggling with your own mortality or that of your family in a sincere way, which he doesn't do. He just the death of his sister it's not like he changed his reflections on women. He still hates them.
Yeah. I mean, Roosh never really talks about his vulnerabilities. Like it's always an excuse for them.
Yeah.
When I read Daybang, one thing that came through to me was that it was a weird thing to draw from like a pickup artist book, but I remember at the time that he felt like someone that had like a panic disorder and a specific fear of mortality, because he talked like several times about how like you're going to die one day and like this like urgency of how like life is so fleeting, and so therefore you need to have sex as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then that same thing seemed to. I think I ended my old review just saying, "Someday you're going to die. Go fuck yourself." But he, that seems to come through, and like I don't know, maybe dealing with mortality personally, he suddenly became very, very religious.
Yeah, it's possible. It's and part of that is maybe not just the sister, because he never really reflects on it, but his clear insecurity and the hatred he has for the world. Maybe just feel sorry for him. But I also kind of potentially. I don't think he intentionally humanizes himself this way, but I realize he and I actually have something odd in common.
I was going to ask you about that.
Hey guys, a broken clock is right 2 times a day, right? This guy is
hardcore misogyny.
Yeah, hardcore. Yeah, I'm finally going to admit it.
Scabies.
I knew it.
It's hardcore misogyny and scabies. I'm fucking riddled with it. No, it's birds. The guy's a bird nerd. And so am I.
Yeah.
He kind of like goes to look for birds at different points along the way. And his most proud session he describes, where he hangs out in one spot for a few hours and he managed to identify 6 birds. It's like, man, that's fucking weak. I mean, not to judge other bird enthusiasts, but you can only identify 6. That's not very good. You go to a pond, you should see a dozen. But anyway.
Okay. You should write a book on bird game.
Calling them out.
Yeah. Pulling birds, as they would say locally here in the UK.
The difference between you and Roosh V is that, like, just like you didn't need a complex system to ever meet women. You also don't need to become a religious extremist to enjoy birds.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one thing. Yeah,
Well, this has been a fascinating discussion here. Anything else that we wanted to cover before we get into our closing game?
Are you referring to pickup artistry, or do you have some moves you're going to share with us that you learned in Southeast Asia?
I only had one thing. Just one final thing I wanted to read that I thought was really funny, because I think this shows how credible he is about anything else. He meets a handicapped man in a church, and he's reflecting on how simple the man is and nice. And he's like, most of society would scorn this man. And then he, for some reason, it's like, no, I think most people would be nicer than you, to be honest. But then he writes, he has this small fantasy about if his future wife had a child with a learning disability, and that he'd keep the child even if the wife left him.
What a humanitarian.
He would force her to not get an abortion or anything. He would keep the child. And then he says, And this is a man that's lived in the city in his whole life, never lived on a farm. He says, on a homestead, I would make such a handicapped child useful when it came to gardening or taking care of the animals. With his gentle manner, sorry. He says with his gentle manner, I imagine it wouldn't be a problem for him to feed the chickens or goats. We'd have a bountiful supply of food.
And that's why I kind of have a soft spot for this guy, even though he's a racist, he's a xenophobe, he's a misogynist, but he's got this kind of like gentle earnesty that I find endearing.
It's delusion. It's not earnest.
And well, yeah, no, and I pity him.
Can I ask one question as well? You mentioned at the restart of this that he stopped all of this pickup artist stuff converting Christianity, and now he has a quote day job. What?
No,
so he says.
I don't think
his
it's
day job.
I don't think we know. I think he's tried to take himself entirely offline in order to protect that job. So he's.
I'm really curious as to what kind of employer is like, and what he's doing.
His background is in microbiology. That's what his degree is in. So I don't know if he found work in his field.
We'll have to wait until he writes day job.
You see, Dub? All right, over to you, Dr. BD, PhD. Before you run your game, how about a little rating? What do we give? You give. American Pilgrim.
I think similar to what Chip said, like I went into this really loathing the guy, and now I just kind of feel sorry for him. And this book, obviously, in spite of the fact that it's got a lot of hate behind it, there's also some bizarre comedic moments. I didn't even read the quote about when he's connecting with nature and he finds a frog, and so he pokes the frog with a stick, and that's like his beautiful moment of engagement with nature. You just kind of feel sorry for the guy, like as Jane I think just said a few minutes ago. He's like the character from Mice and Men who's like strangling the rabbit while trying to pet it. He's
like evil Forrest Gump.
That's him, misogynist Forrest Gump. So I don't even know. I forget how our rating system works. 5 right down the middle, because it's got lots of hateful ideas, but it's it's not the worst thing I've read.
5 shits.
No.
All right, good.
Yes. Just as our scheduled routine, not scheduled routine, what a boring way to phrase it, our exciting, spectacular finale to the episode. We play our classic game, Is It Worse Than Hitler?
Right.
This is the game where we use Goodreads as a measure. And we look at Mein Kampf, which has a rating on Goodreads of 3.18, and we try to ask the esteemed members of the panel if this week's book is better or worse than Hitler. And just to warm us up, I think let's dive back into the past with something we did in, I want to say, the 3rd episode, the semen retention miracle. Anybody remember the semen retention miracle? Is that better or worse than Hitler? And for the record, by the way, I forgot to say, in last week's episode, Jane Lynch was a perfect 4 for 4.
Yeah, Jalen batted 1,000.
I'm already really conflicted on this one, on the Roosh V one. I think semen retention, I'm going to go less.
Remind us what Mein Kampf is rated.
3.18.
We get to know that? That's not bad for a hateful screed. Semen retention, I feel like that book has a lot of it's held up as the semen retention Bible. Like, even amongst anti-Semitic texts, Mein Kampf isn't really like the Bible. You probably have to go to like the Learned Protocols or something like that to find like the top anti-Semitic book, whereas Semen Retention Miracle is the top semen retention book. So I'm going to say it's higher.
Anyway, final answer from Cash, higher. Anyone else?
Higher as well.
Jane?
I already said lower, so I'll stick with it.
Semen Retention Miracle comes in at 3.97. It is confirmed better than Hitler.
That's close.
And the streak is broken.
Just edging out Hitler.
Let's do.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. Speaking of edging Hitler on this week in semen retention, let's do one more blast from the past. Wet Goddess. This is the book written by the guy who fucked the dolphin and then wrote a book about how he likes to literally have sex with dolphins. Is Wet Goddess better or worse than Hitler?
It's lower because there's no adherence to Wet Goddess. Like, there's no one who's like, what is he? He's not a bestiality guy.
Zoophile.
He's an animal zoophile. Yeah. I mean, maybe the zoophiles bumped it up a little bit, but no, I'm with Jalen on this one. I'm saying lower.
I think lower as well.
Wet Goddess comes in at 3.40. Confirmed better than Hitler.
Okay.
Yeah, someone's rating it 5 stars.
How many ratings does it have?
Yeah, good question. Let's have a.
That should be included in the. Just when
you shouldn't allow ironic ratings.
78 ratings. So it's not 78 reviews. So it's not, and there's evenly spread. There's 29 5 stars, 11 4 stars, only 15 1 stars.
My God.
Yeah.
That book's gross.
That book is gross. Lastly, for the gross book of this week, American Pilgrim by Roosh V. Is it better or worse than Hitler?
I am once again 3 for 3 going lower, because I think that all the people that read his books before will read this and then be very, very disappointed. And they're going to hate it.
I have to disagree. I think a lot of his old fans still love him because he's still holding the line when it comes to the core issues. Like, yeah, he's not out there running game and nightclubs, but he's still hating on women. So really, that's
fair enough.
That's what it comes down to.
Any kind of convert gets a lot of grace, regardless of what they do too. So I feel like better than Hitler.
American Pilgrim rated 4.4 out of 5.
0 for 3.
Confirmed better
Did
than
I just
Hitler,
run the table today?
You did.
Yep, this week's winner, I think, is a tie, isn't it? Cash and Chip.
Both
got
got it
right.
I got White Goddess wrong. Sorry. No. It's revisionist.
All right, you're a loser. Sorry. So this week's winner is Chip Wilson. Stay tuned next week where maybe there'll be prizes. Who knows? Next week we'll play Is It Worse Than Hitler once again.
That'd be exciting. All right, Dr. Beatty, PhD, thank you so much for taking us through this fascinating audit of Roosh V and his memoir, American Pilgrim. I want to thank C-Dub and Jalen for your contributions to today's meeting as well. It's been a pleasure having all of you aboard. Remember, we're switching up to fortnightly episodes, so there'll be no episode next week, but there'll be one 2 weeks from now. Like, comment, subscribe, drop us a message, visit bluechipclub.shop, visit our Piece of Shit Book Club on Reddit. And to all Blue Chip Club members, it's been a pleasure serving with you. Stay optimized. And with that, the ledger is now closed. We'll see you next time.